morning. Don't touch the mic, he said. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Vitas. I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer here at Metro. Safety is the most important thing we're working on at Metro, so we thank you for coming out here today to learn about everything that we're doing to maintain the safety on the system for our employees and our customers. Today, you're going to hear from Metro Board Chair and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, followed by Metro Board First Chair and LA County Supervisor Janice Hahn. Next, Metro Board Director and Glendale City Councilman Ara Najarian. Then, Metro Board Director and LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger. And Metro Board Director and LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis. Metro Board Director and LA Council Member Katie Yaroslavsky. And Metro Board Director and Whittier Council Member Fernando Dutra. Finally, we will close with Metro CEO Stephanie Wiggins. We will close at the end with a Q&A session that's facilitated by Metro Director of Communications Dave Sotero. Now first, let me introduce you to LA Mayor and LA Metro Board Chair and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you for being here today to talk about a most important issue in our city. And let me begin by being absolutely, unequivocally clear. The spike in violent crime on Metro that we have recently seen against operators and riders has been absolutely unacceptable, and I know that all of my colleagues here today would agree. Yesterday, as chair of the board of Metro, I directed an immediate surge of law enforcement personnel on Metro buses, on rail cars, and in stations to address this spike. Today, we are following that action with a motion to make work all Angelenos, our riders, and our operators feel safe on our system. This motion will increase the daily planned deployment of public safety personnel on Metro and direct public safety personnel to be physically present on buses and trains and proactively patrol areas as well. The motion will also establish a unified command led by Metro's system security and law enforcement department with representation from all public safety resources and work to ensure that cellular service is enabled and working at all underground Metro rail stations on the platforms and during transit throughout the rail system. And the importance of this is so passengers, if they need to, can get help immediately. I want to thank my fellow directors as well as our CEO, Stephanie Wiggins, for working on this important issue. So our message to Los Angeles is clear. We have already acted. The request of Metro to increase personnel happened yesterday. The motion that we are talking about today will be introduced and discussed at Metro's board meeting next week. But given what has happened on the trains and the buses, we did not want to wait for a meeting next week. We wanted to act immediately because we understand that our #1 job is for Angelenos across LA County to feel safe. Thank you very much, and let me introduce Metro's Vice Chair, Janice Hahn.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Metro Board of Directors, I think I speak for all of us that our priority is the safety of our riders and our employees. There's no amount of improvements that we can make to our routes, to our wait times, that will matter to riders if they do not feel safe taking Metro buses or trains. We have the responsibility to every single one of our riders and our bus operators and our train operators to make Metro safe. And part of the solution, I believe, has to be increasing law enforcement visibility and presence on our system. Metro right now contracts with LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, Long Beach Police Department to patrol our system. They are essential to keeping our riders safe. But for too long, these contracts have not gotten us a readily visible law enforcement presence on our system. We need law enforcement riding our buses and our trains does not do our riders any good if officers remain in their squad cars. The violence against our riders in recent days and weeks demands an urgent response. And I thank Mayor Karen Bass for facilitating a surge in law enforcement presence on our Metro buses and trains, and a unified command of the 3 law enforcement agencies. I appreciate her for bringing this proposal forward. I stand with Karen Bass today, and all of us together are sending a message to our Metro riders that their safety is paramount, and we will do everything we can to keep them and our bus drivers safe. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce who? Ara Najarian, board member and Glendale City Council member. I got confused with all that writing.
Me too.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Mayor. Let me be clear that I fully support Mayor Bass's initiative and will be supporting it next week at the board meeting. I'm the longest serving member of the board currently, and I can assure you all that when I started in 2006, we did not face these issues that we've been seeing in the last year. But I do want to say that as the crime has increased, Metro Board has taken it very seriously and has ramped up our efforts, not just in providing more police and law enforcement, which we need, but also by introducing our ambassadors. And of course, they don't have guns, they don't have handcuffs, but they're our eyes and ears, and they let everyone else know what's going on. We've made our stations brighter. We've played beautiful classical music to disrupt those who want to disrupt our system. It's something that this board takes seriously, that I take seriously, and I hope that with this motion of Mayor Bass, that we'll be able to put these horrible incidents behind us, and that those that ride Metro know that they will have a safe and secure ride to go to work, to go home, and to go about their business. Thank you. I'd like to introduce now Supervisor and Director Catherine Barger.
Thank you, and I also want to thank you, Mayor, for your leadership on this, both as chair but also as a mayor of the city of Los Angeles. Today's heightened focus on Metro safety is not just the thing to do, but I believe it's been long overdue. I've been a vocal proponent of improving safety on our buses and our rails, so I'm glad to be standing here shoulder to shoulder with my Metro board leaders who also feel that we need to make some changes. Our board has directed significant resources in recent years to address safety and cleanliness on our system for both riders and for our employees. Over the past year, as a result of a special joint security operations and a multi-layered safety approach, we've seen crime stats trending in the right direction. I think that's important to note. We have seen crime going down, but the level of crime on the system is what we are here talking about today. I do believe our staff and contractors from system security and law enforcement operations, customer experience, and others are working hard. However, we continue to hear loud and clear from our riders that safety is still their biggest concern. Despite the resources allocated, there continues to be a very real and an unacceptable level of violence, illicit drug sales, drug use, and overdoses. There is a blatant disregard for the law and our code of conduct. At times, it feels like we're fighting an uphill battle. Much of this is a symptom of the dysfunction and failure of government at various levels, including at the federal and state levels, that spill over onto our transportation system, and I'm talking about the issues surrounding mental health. But I believe there are more actions within our control that we can take. We need to do more to maximize the significant resources that we've allocated to public safety. That is why last month I introduced a motion focused on controlling access to our rail system. Hardening access points will help combat the security problems we're facing on our system. And this month I'm pleased to join Mayor Bass on her motion to immediately and visibly surge our public safety presence on our system and strengthen coordination. I'm also joining Supervisor Horvath on a motion that seeks important information and dialogue to inform a coordination safety strategy for the months and years ahead. As part of that motion, I've also asked for our law enforcement partners to present a strategy that enhances their roles while ensuring that we are not criminalizing code of conduct violations, something I continually hear about. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have law enforcement at our Metro's planning table. We certainly won't be able to simply arrest our way out of this problem, but law enforcement is an absolutely essential resource that Metro needs so that we can bring back our system and bring back in a safe and manageable fashion. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce my colleague, Director Hilda Solis.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Ensuring the safety of our Metro passengers and our dedicated frontline employees who get them to their destinations every day is our top priority. And we must take every measure to protect them against acts of violence. And I believe the solution requires a two-track approach. First, immediately increasing the number of safety personnel, like our transit security officers, transit ambassadors, on our trains and our buses and at our rail and at our bus stations. They have to be visible and they have to be present. And number two, we must ensure Metro upgrades the safety infrastructure at all of our stations. And we must meet our commitment to retrofit our entire bus fleet with reinforced physical barriers by the end of this year to better protect bus operators from acts of senseless violence. And we must also make sure we continue to dedicate adequate resources to address the root causes, as was stated by my colleagues, for many of these assaults, including more assistance in the mental health arena, substance abuse dependencies, and likewise. And we need to make necessary investments to expand our healthcare and our substance abuse treatment programs in the community to put ourselves on a path to creating the safest and most welcoming environment for Los Angeles County Metro passengers and their employees. And as we continue to expand our transportation infrastructure across Los Angeles County and add more riders and employees to our trains and buses, reducing these incidents of violence and addressing their root causes will continue to be our #1 focus. With that, thank you. I'd like to next introduce LA City Councilwoman Katie Yaroslavsky.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start off by thanking Mayor Bass for your leadership on this and send my thoughts to the Angelinos who were attacked on Metro this week and to their loved ones. What happened not just this week, but over the past several weeks is completely unacceptable, and there is absolutely no excuse for it. We cannot and do not accept this violence as normal, and we are taking swift action to end it. Metro needs to be safe, and safety has to be our #1 priority, as has been said by my colleagues already. The residents of Los Angeles County have been clear that they want a world-class public transportation system. And as a result, this agency is taking on some of the most ambitious infrastructure work in the country right now. But delivering a world-class system for Angelinos is about more than building out rail lines, opening new stations, and increasing bus service. If people don't feel safe when taking Metro, and more importantly, if they aren't safe, it will all be for nothing. The Metro Board of Directors has already taken action that will be felt in the coming weeks and months. We're installing new physical barriers to protect Metro personnel on our bus lines. And next week, we will vote on a new budget that increases public safety spending by 11%, doubling the number of transit security officers on the system. But we have to do more, and we have to do it quickly. This motion proposed by Mayor Bass contains several provisions that will help us do that, and I want to talk about why they are important. This motion will increase public safety personnel by 20% and also ensure that personnel are deployed in a way that maximizes visibility. This brings a stronger sense of security on our trains and buses, and it will serve as a deterrent to potential criminal activity. Visible, present officers also ensure quicker response times, fostering a safer transportation environment. Importantly, the motion also focuses on improving cellular service across our rail network. The only thing worse than finding yourself in an emergency situation is not being able to call for help. In 2024, there is no reason this should be an issue, and yet we know there are dead zones in our system. We have a responsibility to fix this issue as quickly as possible. This isn't just about reacting to crime, it's about preempting it, about building a system that is both safe and efficient. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Board Director Fernando Dutra, to say a few words. Mayor Pro Tem of Whittier.
I'm going to keep it short because I know you're here to ask a bunch of questions, but I'll say that safety is absolutely foundational to this agency. It's foundational to every single one of us up here. The safety of our employees and of our riders is the most important. As chairman of the construction committee, I can tell you that I'm hyper-focused on what we can do going forward to resolve these issues before we start other projects. And so you have our commitment and certainly my commitment that we will do everything we can to resolve these issues, and I'm especially thankful to Mayor Bass for her leadership and my entire team here, our team, I should say, for the commitment they've made to make safety the #1 for Metro Agency. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to thank Chair Bass for calling this press conference today, and thank you for your leadership. I appreciate the remarks made by our directors, Hahn, Nigerian, Barger, Solis, Yaroslavsky, and Dutra. Let me also be clear. Nothing is more important to Metro than the safety of our employees and riders. I agree with the chair and our board members. This current situation on our system is not acceptable, and we welcome assistance from all of our partners, including the city and the county and our contracted law enforcement agencies, to help improve safety on our system. The data shows that untreated mental illness and drug addiction are contributing factors to many of the recent unprovoked attacks on our system. Metro is a transit agency, not a social services agency. So we need assistance from our government and community partners to help address these societal issues and keep people safe. Nearly 1 million people use Metro every weekday, a number that has grown now year over year for the last 17 months. And as we've welcomed more people onto the system, we've also increased our efforts to make it safe. Those efforts are showing results, with a 41% reduction in crimes against people in the past year. And in March, we had about 5 crimes against persons per 1 million boardings. But even one incident is one too many. My focus is on making Metro not just statistically safe, but feel safe for everyone, both our riders and our employees. We welcome Chair Bass's action to establish a unified command led by our System Security and Law Enforcement Department. And we have our interim Deputy Chief, Rob Gummer, here, who will be leading that effort. As a result of the chair's direction, yesterday we began to phase in resources to surge an increased visible presence of uniformed personnel on our system. I've instructed our law enforcement partners to increase their visible presence on our buses, trains, and stations to deter crime. In addition, yesterday, Metro began surging our transit security presence to enforce the rules of the system, and this is a critical ingredient to keeping people safe. This action is in addition to retrofitting the bus barriers, adding transit security officers to ride the buses, enhancing many of our nearly 31,000 cameras on our system, improving lighting, and exploring more secure fare gate improvements. It's also in addition to the care-based approach that we've undertaken with our Metro ambassadors, our crisis intervention teams, and our homeless outreach teams, which have housed more than 1,700 people experiencing homelessness in the last 10 months alone. So we're tackling these problems head on. We're collaborating, employing new strategies and tactics. We're measuring our progress. We're continually evaluating our posture and adjusting our efforts as necessary. And this motion and direction by Chair Bass, supported by our board, is foundational in ensuring that we improve the visible presence on our system, because we know visible presence helps keep people safe. Together, we will make this system safe for everyone in LA County. I'll turn it over to Dave Sotero.
Thanks everyone for coming. We have time for a few questions. I'll start off in the back of the room. Can you identify your news outlet, please, and ask your question?
Yeah, Blake Trolley with KFI Radio. A couple of questions. One of the things we hear from riders a lot when it comes to their concerns is the amount of homeless people that they encounter on the system and the open drug use. As part of this safety initiative, removing some of those people from the Metro system. On top of that, so to piggyback off that question, do you guys have any fears of what people are going to see when they show up here in 2028 for the Olympics, many of whom come from areas that rely heavily on rail systems, public transit?
Well, I can quickly just state that we have 24 multidisciplinary teams that are on the Metro system that do homeless outreach and crisis intervention outreach. And so we do have resources available. Of course, we do need more, and that's why we need the partnerships with city and county to do that. Does anyone have any finer point to put on that?
I would just say we've been making success in the issues of particularly illegal drug use on our system. In partnership with our contracted law enforcement, we've seen an increase in actually addressing those issues on our system. And actually, we report out every month publicly to our board the results of that have been significant and have contributed to that 41% year-over-year decline in crime. As for 2028, it is clear that failure is not an option. There is no fear that these issues will be here in 2028. We know this is an incredible opportunity today to improve the experience today so that in 2028, when we're hosting the World, transportation will be the least thing they have to worry about.
You know, I just want to add too, because we heard a lot about we need to partner with the county. One of the programs we're rolling out next month in June is our Department of Mental Health will be training the ambassadors and training the homeless outreach workers on Metro, and then giving them a direct line that they can call when they see someone who needs help, who's having a mental health challenge. So I think that will make a big difference, giving them a real action item that they can do when they encounter someone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Do you have a question here?
Yeah, Anna Lawarian with Spectrum News 1. What about the riders who say they don't feel safe with more armed officers on the trains?
Well, we do have numerous law enforcement on the system. Of course, we're adding more, and we're fully committed to making the system as safe as possible. Do we have someone that want to add more?
The uniform visible presence, while the emphasis this morning is to be clear about the need for more law enforcement, Chair Bass's motion also says an increase in visible presence of all of our public safety resources. So that will include armed and unarmed, and to address the fact that riders have different perspectives about what makes them safe. My experience in talking to riders and being a rider myself is uniform presence is the key.
Thanks, Stephanie. Rachel Uranga?
Hi, it's Rachel with LA Times. I had a couple of questions. First off, do we have the money to pay for this? I know we're going to increase 10% of the budget just to pay for law enforcement. We're not going to increase the actual deployment. So do we have the money for this surge? Are you concerned about that? And is this also an acknowledgement that despite this multi-layered approach that you've been thoughtfully trying to use to diminish the number of homeless individuals sheltering there and drug use, that it's not working, that you need to do something more different? And I'll just tack on this last one as you answer this. One issue that you came on earlier and said is that you support fearlessness, and the issue of fearlessness has popped up in this. Has your mind changed on that?
No, my mind hasn't changed on it. I think it's a question as to whether or not we can afford it. So I think it's a goal long-term, one that we can't achieve right now. But I just want to say, I do not believe this is an acknowledgement at all that our comprehensive approach is a failure. What happens with crime, and everybody is fully aware of this, you have spikes. So as several of the directors said, overall, if you look at the last year, you can see where crime has gone down, but over the last month or so, there has been an increase, and it's changed. It's violent crime that has increased. We weren't seeing this months ago. It was more quality of life crimes. So we want to continue with our approach, but when you have a spike, you respond aggressively to that spike, and that's what we're doing today.
And does Metro have the money to pay for that? I mean,
I will let our CEO.
So two things. Rob Gummer, Interim Deputy Chief System Security Law Enforcement. So to address the money question, that we will be funding that through our operational funds. Just to, I think, double underline the point made by the mayor when it comes to the multi-layered deployment. So we have seen a lot of success with that over this past year. But to her point, we're responding to that spike, and we're responding to that spike with enhancements to that multi-layered deployment. As the CEO had mentioned, we're adding, increasing the numbers of law enforcement, transit ambassadors, all the resources that we currently have out there, we're adding to those layers. And I think that's in recognition of the success of that deployment, because we're reaffirming that commitment into that deployment as part of our reaffirming of the commitment to safety.
Can I add something? I just want to say, I represent MacArthur Park, Westlake area, and over the past year or so, we've had a lot of incidents there. We have actually just reimagined how our terminals are functioning. We were able to remove people who were homeless, that were OD'd, laid out on the floor. You now have families coming in with children, they're feeling safer, and we got a reaffirmation of that. We know what works. Now we're going to replicate that and push that out to different terminals when the time is appropriate. But I can tell you right now, it has dramatically changed because we have used this layered approach. And I will say that there's a lot of satisfaction in terms of the riders, which is one of the most heavily used in the system right there at MacArthur Park.
He said, can you say what you said in Spanish?
Solamente quiero decir que yo sé que este debate es muy importante, que queremos tener seguridad para los pasajeros, especialmente puedo decir en la área de MacArthur Park y Westlake, que tuvimos la oportunidad a tener un piloto, un programa donde tenemos diferentes personas, seguridad, también asistentes, los embajadores, y también recursos para personas. Ya no vemos que están ahí caídos, ahí adentro de la caja donde están esperando los carriles. Ahora mismo tenemos más seguridad allí, y yo he visto que las familias con sus hijos están entrando muy felices, diciendo gracias por todo lo que han hecho aquí. Ese cambio se tiene que hacer en otros lugares. Gracias.
Thanks. I'd like to ask Josh Haskell, ABC7 next.
Yeah, in terms of the 3 agencies that you contract with, how many officers are currently per day assigned to Metro? And I know that Councilman Yaroslavsky mentioned a 20% increase, so can you share that?
We normally don't share the exact numbers of officers that we have out there on the system. I will say that our plan for this is to phase it in over time. Our law enforcement agencies are right now adding more resources across the system as far as specifics as to where they are. So the good thing about the multi-layered approach is that it's system-wide. I think everyone can remember last year when we had a heavy emphasis on the red and purple line. So this year we're applying that same, approach to the entire system. So no matter where you're on the system, you will see enhanced and increased resources, whether it's our transit ambassadors, our law enforcement personnel, our transit security officers, even contract security, and our homeless outreach. That will be applied system-wide.
And I hear what you're saying, and CEO Wiggins talked about this, about how riders seeing an officer will make them feel safer. But we also know that enforcement is difficult on Metro because, as many customers have told me, someone can grab their cell phone and then jump off. And you're not going to have, as far as we know, an officer on every single train. Can you talk about some of the other things you're doing in terms of enforcement to help? And because sometimes people feel like, well, we hear, oh, officers' hands are tied. There's not that much they can do. So in terms of enforcement, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of emphasis on enforcement, but I also want to talk about the coordination piece. So within that multi-layered approach, we talk daily. And we talk daily about the trends and issues that are going on. You are correct. There's not an officer in every train car and at every single aspect of our system, but we maximize the resources in our multi-layered deployment to have as much presence on the system as possible. I think it was mentioned earlier today how the ambassadors serve as our eyes and ears. So the ambassadors are able to communicate with our transit security officers. Transit security officers are able to communicate with our law enforcement partners. So that back and forth coordination is how we try to address those emerging issues or those issues that you spoke about, such as cell phone theft. I think the good news is with this unified command, we'll be able to synergize those efforts even more so. And as we identify those kind of challenges, we'll be able to address them in real time. So that's our approach over the next couple of weeks and going forward. Yes, and the CEO reminded me, which is a critical point of this, our transit security officers are absolutely essential in this plan because they do enforce code of conduct. Our law enforcement partners do an amazing job in enforcing the penal code on our system, and we rely heavily for them on that. But it's a push and pull. Our transit security officers are that critical layer that address things that also impact the feeling of safety. So that could be loud music, that could be spilling food, being disruptive. So those kind of things, in conjunction with the ability to be able to reach over the aisle to our partners, is how we address a lot of these challenges.
Thank you. Third row, can you state your name and your outlet and your question?
Yes, Cecilia Bogran with Univision. What's the timeline for this? I know you mentioned that it's immediate, no? But when are we going to see self-service function in the trains? When are we going to see these problematic stations, estaciones, with more guards and with more police presence? And if you can also answer in Spanish.
All right. Yes. So I would just start and say, it's already starting. So we're already working on this, and even before the surge kicked off, we've already been addressing a lot of those problematic stations. And that's based off our data, based off our feedback back from our patrons and our employees. So the enhancements are already on the way. As far as the increases, you're going to start seeing them over time. So like I said earlier, it's a phased approach to this. So as we ramp up, kind of make adjustments, you'll start to see that become a reality. Start today as you're out there on the system. But I will assure you by next week, we'll be a well-oiled machine, and you'll see that really being applied system-wide.
Next question on the left here. Please state your name and your outlet.
Follow-up question. As it relates to prevention methods, I think at the last board meeting there was a discussion about technology and using that. While it's a little more controversial, facial recognition technology was brought up. So are there efforts being made? Is there a discussion still going on about using technology instead of just increasing law enforcement?
Not in terms of what we're doing.
So yes, the discussions are still ongoing. We're coming back to the board next month to kind of give our findings. So we're very much researching, the technologies that are out there, seeing what applies, seeing what makes sense, and seeing what we can do to add that to our layer of safety and security.
Can you just explain why not to share the numbers and the increased 20%? Because I do think that the public would feel good to know, hey, there's 10,000 additional officers. To have a number to share. And why don't you share that today?
Yeah, so in general, we have well over 600 officers, law enforcement officers on the system. We have, every day, yes. So we have, nearly 200 transit security officers that are applied throughout the system. So when we're talking about the increases, it's really, looking at where we need to have the most efforts, and then applying it there. I think one of the things that we try to avoid is impacting operational integrity, and ensuring that we have the ability to be flexible where we apply these resources.
Let me just say, I just want to be clear that the surge started yesterday.
Yeah, right.
So yes, it will continue to ramp up, but we took action immediately. Just wanted to be clear about that.
Great. First row, please state your name and your outlet.
Yeah, Radio Soul. I just have a quick question in regards to about the motion, because we, as a radio station located in Koreatown that majorly have the purple and red lines, I heard a lot of like the people in the Koreatown that a lot of homeless people just hopping on the train without paying a fare by using those trains. So is that motion also including to manage those people that tried to ban those people not paying and hopping on the train as well?
You want to talk about our fair enforcement?
Yeah, so one of the focuses on that motion is in fact fair enforcement. So we are looking into different ways to be able to apply fair enforcement. We've recognized that as an issue, and that's something that's top of mind for us.
So is it also included different colored metro system as well, that not just only in the LA area, like that, for example, like a green
Yes.
one?
So that is an application system one.
I do want to reemphasize that the spike that we are addressing is in violent crime. So yes, that will be paid attention to, but we're trying to address an immediate problem right now of violence.
Great. Thanks, everyone. That's all the time we have for this press conference.